What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters, and welcome to nolifetilmetal. It's time for my top 30 of 2024. That's right, it's time for my top 30 of 2024, and great year for metal, great year for hard rock, great year for prog, some great prog stuff out too. I had way more in my collection than I could possibly, that I picked up this year, new releases that I could possibly show in this video. I had to leave out some great bands that I absolutely love, and a few that I just didn't think were up to snuff. I'm not going to, get into negative stuff about any of those kind of things, but I got 30 releases here that to me were fantastic releases. Some newer bands, some older bands that I think are still putting out great material, and all of it I just really enjoyed. And basically this list is, especially the top 10, I mean, I'm going to say from 11 through 30, the order is kind of, it's there, but it's, I'm not saying number 30 is so much worse than number 11. It's not like that at all. It's I just put them in an order that, I think these are all great. But the top 10, I can honestly say that these were albums that I couldn't stop spinning at all. I played them constantly. They just really spoke to me, if that's the right word to use. They captured me, and I just absolutely love those top 10 albums. I love all these albums, so don't get me wrong, these are all good. Like I said, I had to leave out quite a few. So let's get right into this, because I have 30 to show and not a whole lot of time. All right, so first up, we're going to start off with, this is Within the Fire, number 30, an independent release from a U.S. heavy metal band that I quite enjoyed. Never heard of these guys before. Honestly, I don't get a whole lot of free music from people, but this band contacted me, hey, you want to check out our music? And I'm like, heck yeah. So they sent me a copy, and it's good. It's absolutely worth checking out. If you like traditional heavy metal, new wave of traditional heavy metal, even, I don't know, classic heavy metal, that's kind of the vibe that's going on here. Power metal will probably be the best description for it, but this is Still Burning by Within the Fire. All right, at number 29, this is the second full-length album from Ritual Servant. This is Albus Manium, and this is, I don't know, speed metal, thrash metal, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. Patrick Best is the main man here. This is on Rocks Records. I spun this thing quite a few times, really like it. Do I like it better than the first album? I'm not sure. I really like the first album a lot, and it also made my top 30 of the year it came out. So, but it's a great album. Fantastic guitar solos on here as well. If you're into thrash metal, this one's definitely worth checking out. rocksrecords.com. Next up, this is an old classic band from the East Coast. This is The Rods, and these guys just continue to keep putting out great music. This one is called Rattle the Cage. It's obviously got the vibe of their old Wild Dogs cover on it, but this time the Wild Dogs are caged. So Within the Cage. Just great old school heavy metal on Massacre Records, which is a German label. And yeah, it's just good. I mean, if you like the old Rod stuff, it's not exactly as, I don't know, as simple as that. It's a little more pushing towards a more modern heavy metal sound with more modern production. But regardless, if you're into the Rods, this was not a disappointment whatsoever. It's a solid album from it. Excuse me. Next up, thrash metal from Bloodfeast. Bloodfeast. These guys are still out there putting out music. This is Infinite Evolution. This was on the Hell's Headbangers label. And as you can see, it's got a cool looking black and white and gray mixed marble vinyl. It's exactly what you want to hear from these guys. It's just old school, thrash metal. Some people would call these guys a B-grade band. I don't give a crap what you grade a band at. No, of course they never saw the respect or level of Metallica, Anthrax, Creator, whatnot. But doesn't make it bad music. And Bloodfeast are just a freaking fantastic old school, legendary thrash band who continue to put out good thrash metal music. All right, next up, Randy Rose, another solo album from Randy. Of course, Randy was from, he's been releasing solo albums, gosh, since the late 80s, maybe it was the early 90s. And I've actually done some work on some of his solo albums for some of the labels that I work for. But he was also in a band called Mad at the World. And this was, gosh, it's got to be like his 6th or 7th solo album. And the last one he put out was very, very disturbing album. It was very mixture music-wise. This one is a little bit more of a return to his classic sound, where it was kind of doomy and dark and, you know, kind of Danzig-ish, but it's still very mixed sound, mixed emotion. He definitely weaves a tapestry with sounds, and it's not one-dimensional whatsoever. So this is called The Masquerade, and highly recommend it if you're into, you know, very dark music. By the way, he is a Christian, and so there is a lot of biblical references, but he deals with a lot of tough subjects. So there's a nice picture of Randy on the back there. Okay, next up, some classic heavy metal from Scanner. These guys have been around forever as well. This is on Rock of Ages vinyl records, and yeah, what can I say about it? You know, Scanner. If you're a fan of, you know, mostly underground metal, Scanner is definitely one of the shining stars in that scene, and this album was called The Cosmic Race, one that I picked up early and just I never actually put this one on the shelf. I kept it in a pile behind me, which is where I usually keep things to go through when I want to listen to them again, and this one never came out of that pile for the entire year because I definitely picked it up and played it several times throughout the year. So yeah, good album from Scanner. The Cosmic Race. And the return of Ravage. This album, of course, these guys used to be a Metal Blade band, but this is an independent release, released with Thrash with Power Records, which I think is just the band's independent label. But this thing is a beast of a record, really good, old school heavy metal. If you know that Metal Blade records from Ravage, you're not going to be disappointed with this one. And the packaging on this thing is superb. The band packed everything they could in here. There's posters and there's all kinds of stuff in here. I'm not going to go deep into it. I showed this in a video a long time ago. I'm just showing the album to say it's what number. I did keep a list. Number 23 in my list. So Ravage, and the name of the album is The Spider Arrives, I believe. Let me sing here. The Spider on the World. The Spider on the World from Ravage. So that would be number. I'm sorry. Did I set what number was that? I wrote this down so I wouldn't mess up the numbers. This is number 24. So Ravage, Spider on the Earth. All right, number 23 is, and I put it somewhere in front of me. Here it is. Was never released on vinyl. I wish it was. I wish this band would sign with a label, because I really think this band would be, if they could get into distribution and get more well known, this Santa Fe, New Mexico band would be much more popular. But this is Savage Wisdom. This is Who's Laughing Now, and fantastic old school heavy metal. I mean, if you think of like the first Queensryche EP, or like Fate's Warning's No Exit, or that kind of sound, you know, where it's a mixture of progressive metal and just straightforward heavy metal with those high, clean, soaring vocals and great guitar solos, and you know, songs that are, you know, are all like. And they're not long. I mean, most of the songs on here are probably like 5 to 6 minutes long, but, you know, longer than your average 3-minute pop metal song. So, but anyhow, yeah, this is Who's Laughing Now by Savage Wisdom. I think this might have been their third full-length release. I know for sure I have at least 2 of them in my collection. So, but yeah, I was very, very impressed by this one. Played this one in my car quite a bit. Okay, where are we here on my list? This is... Okay, this one is number 22. Ace Frehley, kind of low on my list for being how much of an Ace Frehley fanatic I am. I actually pulled a couple. I have actually 2 different covers. There was several covers released on it, but I have these 2 that I pulled. Yeah, it's just classic Frehley. I mean, if you like, you know, his kind of... can't sing, don't care kind of vocals, you know, it's rock and roll. If you like his style of guitar playing, which many people describe as sloppy, but it's definitely charismatic and his own style. I really dug this one. There's some great hooks on here, some good songwriting. I love the song Cherry Medicine, which that album cover is based on, his Cherry Medicine. I thought it was a great hooky track for him. But yeah, the entire thing is fantastic. I really enjoyed this album quite a bit than his last one, actually, and yeah, not a bad song on here in my opinion. It was just, you know, solid hard rock from ex-Kiss guitarist Ace Frehley. All right, next one, another one that usually is much higher on my list, and it's not, again, not that this is a bad album, it just didn't quite capture my attention quite as much as some of the others that I'm going to show upcoming. But this is number 21, and this is Hammerfall's latest. And this is Avenge the Fallen, and it's actually, I bought it new. I played it a few times, and then I put it away and kind of forgot about it. And then I was going through listening to stuff again before I did this list, and I was like, oh, I haven't heard that Hammerfall in a while, and I pulled it out and gave it a listen, and it's actually better than I thought it was, or better than I remembered it being, and actually ended up playing it a couple times. Really enjoyed this album, but yeah, coming in at number 21, this is Hammerfall's Avenge the Fallen. Number 20, we're in our top 20 now. This is Riot V, Mean Streets. I mean, this was the continuation of Riot. No original members from Riot left, which is why they changed their name to Riot V. However, they continue the legacy of the classic, Riot band from the 70s. So I still enjoy them. They're still using the seal, the Mighty Tior seal, or Johnny, whatever you want to call them, on their covers, and they're still just playing that classic U.S. power metal, which a lot of people credit with Riot being one of the very first U.S. power metal bands. So. All right, this is a newer band to me. I only recently discovered them. Man, this album's great. I mean, it captured me like that. Some albums it takes a few spins to really get into it, but this is the latest, and this is Catastrophic Creation from Corrosive. And had I had this a little bit longer, it may have been higher on my list. I've only had this for a few weeks now, but man, what a great album. This is just great thrash metal. Very slight death metal leans here and there, but mostly just sticking to the thrash metal. It's got the classic Ed Repka cover art. Of course, it's like almost mandatory that thrash bands have an Ed Repka cover at one point or another. But yeah, great band. I think you're out of Canada. Enjoyed this one immensely. So I'm sure you'll hear more about this band from me in the future. I believe they have 3 albums out, and that's the only one I have, and it was a gift from my good friend. So I'm kind of hoping I can get more from them. Unfortunately, getting product from Canada is a little bit expensive due to the shipping and whatnot. All right, this band just continues to put out great album after great album. Number 18, this is Saxon, and this is Hell, Fire, and Damnation. Great album from them. Straightforward, heavy metal. I don't know what else to say about it. I just adore Saxon. I have, since I was a kid in the 80s. They did have a time period where they were trying to go more commercial, trying to do the Def Leppard thing out of the New Wave of British heavy metal movement. And then eventually after that didn't really work for them, they came back with just, a string of great classic heavy metal albums, and Biff Byford sounds as good as he ever has. So, yeah, really good album from them. Great picture of the band on the back. Great album cover. Great album from Saxon, Hellfire and Damnation. Likewise, these guys just continue to churn out great album after great album. This is Humanoid, Accept, and oddly enough, the album cover and the album title sounds vaguely, well, not vaguely, it sounds very familiar to Primal's Human Machine album that came out a couple years ago. But regardless, this doesn't sound like Primal. Primal have their own sound, and Accept have their own sound. And if you like, the classic Accept sound, very few people seem to dislike this era of Accept, this newer era of Accept with Mark Torino on vocals. I did get to see KK's Priest and Accept together at a good-sized club in Albuquerque, and they were fantastic. Both bands were great. Accept had 3 guitar players in the band for that show, so odd, but really cool. But yeah, this is a great album. I think it's probably my favorite since Blood on the Nations, which I thought that was a fantastic album. All right, this one I was initially disappointed in before I heard it, which is ridiculous. But I really love this band. This is Clove Hoof. Another new wave of British heavy metal band. It continues to put out great music. My reason for being disappointed initially was the band parted ways with George Call, and they put out 2 great albums, and George is just a powerhouse vocalist out of Texas, and I was disappointed that he was no longer in the band, and I'm like, man, who are they going to be able to get that could possibly be as good as George Call? Well, they got Harry the Conquering Tyrant in the band. So, I mean, all right, well, then I got to check that out. I mean, that dude's a legend as well. Great vocalist as well. And sure enough, man, they put out one solid heavy metal record. These guys aren't really doing any kind of trendy thing. They're just doing heavy metal. And if you dig that traditional heavy metal sound, modern production, no doubt, I'm sure it's all done modern production. It has that vibe to it. But the music here, the vocals, the hooks, the everything, the choruses, it's just exactly what you want to hear from a classic heavy metal band. So Cloven Hoof and Heathen Cross. Cool album cover as well. Looks to be hand painted as opposed to AI. I'm already tired of AI covers. Speaking of George Call, the new album from Aska, which of course is George's main band. He also sings in Banshee, and he sang in Clove Hoof for a while. But Ask is his band out of Texas, and this was an independent release. The band put it out themselves. Again, I wish they kind of had a label because they'd get them into distribution, and maybe people would notice them a little bit more. Because I've shown this record several times on the Metal Roundtable and on my own channel, and people like no idea who that is. These guys have been around for decades, and they've got, gosh, 8, 9 albums out. And they just get better and better and better with every album. And this definitely is probably their best album ever. This is Night Strike. Again, an independent release. There was only 475 copies of this pressed. And I have number 44 of 475. I did pre-order it from the band. So, Aska's first new album in 10 years featuring ex-Clove Hoof vocalist George Call. The band delivers a blistering set of melodic traditional metal for fans of Priest, Maiden, Sabbath, and Manowar. All right, this next band, another one that you probably don't know all that well. Again, I wish these guys were on a label that had better distribution, but this is a band out of Albuquerque, New Mexico called Red Mesa. This is Partial Distortions. If you remember them from a past best of video or top 30 video, they have been on my list before. I absolutely love these guys. They're Desert Doom. Slow, churning, heavy, crunchy, metal. What else can you say? I mean, it's not progressive at all. It's more, I know it's hard to always just describe a band without comparing them to other bands. But I wouldn't put them in like the Candlemass category. I'd put them more in the Pentagram category of sound and style, you know. So there you go, Red Mesa, Partial Distortions, and a shout out to my bro Alex Cantwell, who is also the bass player in this band. The second album since the reunion of Juan Garcia and Evil Dead. Love this album. I've seen some people criticizing it. They did experiment a little bit with their sound here and there. I'm going to say this album is like 75 to 80% just pure thrash metal, exactly what you'd want to hear from them, but they did like experiment a little bit with the sound. I really liked it. And again, you've got a, what looks to be, I think it is Ed Repka cover, classic artwork on here, front and back. It's just a great album from the LA thrash band. And if anybody didn't know, the guitar player and drummer in this band are also the guitar player and drummer in the band Anger is Art, another great LA thrash band. So, and I believe Anger is Art made my, was it last year? It was in my top 5, if not my number 1. But anyhow, Evil Dead, and the name of the album is Toxic Grace. This one surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it is. This is the new Nasty Savage. It's called Jeopardy Room. They went with a classic look. It's just, I mean, this looks like their first 2 albums in the EP that came out back in the 80s on Metal Blade Records. The only original member of the band, as far as I know, is vocalist Nasty Ronnie, who oftentimes is compared to, you know, King Diamond in his vocal sound because he does a lot of that high-pitched falsetto style. But Nasty Ronnie is just a fantastic vocalist in my opinion. He does a great job with this, and this sounds like classic Nasty Savage, classic thrash metal band. This is a classic band showing the new bands how to do it right. I really think this is probably one of the best things they've done since the 80s in my opinion. I mean, I like a lot of their stuff. I pretty much like everything they put out, but this album just surprised me by how good it was. And this copy happens to be number 231 out of 250, so on black vinyl. I don't know if there's other colors available or not, but also came with this nice little, I don't know, 5x7 band photo. All right, another one that I didn't even, I mean, I was aware of this band. I actually have the band's first CD. Hadn't played it in, gosh, a decade. I remember liking it, but I just hadn't played it. It's been sitting on my CD shelf directly behind me here, and I hadn't heard it, but this is Hall of Flame. So who are Hall of Flame? Well, it's a straight-up heavy metal, melodic metal band, and it's basically Kurt Vanderhoof's band from Metal Church. So Metal Church, of course, has gone through all kinds of crap over the past few years with the death of their vocalist, and then they put out a new album with a new vocalist, and anyhow, just, you know, lots of member changes. But Hall of Flame hasn't put out an album, gosh, in over a decade, and they put out this album here, which is called Amplifier, and it's great. I mean, really, really good. Great hooks, melodic, keeps you engaged. It's not, you know, monotone. This album is fantastic, and I honestly been pushing and pimping for this album for a long time on both my channel and the Metal Roundtable, which you guys can also get to see me on. So, the Hall of Flame album was number 11, and now we're getting into the top 10. Hall of Flame almost made my top 10, almost, but I really had a struggle with. at this point here, I was really struggling with who should be on the top. You know, which ones did I play the most? Which ones did? And Hall of Flame was one I did play quite a bit, so it really could have been in the top 10. Okay, this is the return of Ruthless and the Fallen. Ruthless are an LA power metal. Some people call them a thrash metal band. I don't know. They kind of straddle that fence between power metal and thrash metal. I don't really care. I just like the music. Everything about this thing is fantastic. Great production, great vocals, great guitar solos. Went to see this band play in LA with Primal. They were doing their album release party, and so was Primal. So it was really cool. So I bought this directly from the band. And as you can see, my copy's all, I got it all autographed at the show. It's autographed in silver Sharpie. It was actually very dark in that club, so the autographs aren't the best, but they are what they are. There's a great picture of the band on the back too. And these guys just finished a tour with Jag Panzer out in Europe. So just, you know, a classic band from the 80s, reformed with mostly original members, and highly recommended. At number 10, Ruthless, the Fallen. This was a climber. If this was if I was a radio station, this is the one that climbed from the bottom to the top. I bought this on a whim, mostly on the basis of I thought it was a cool album cover, and I liked one of the guys in the band, I can't remember which one at the time, was on one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, and posted it and said, hey, check out my band, whatever, and we are this, this, and this, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, and I saw the album cover on it, and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, so I bought it. This is Ravage, and it's another independent release. You can get this directly on the band's Bandcamp page, but these guys are fantastic. I mean, it's heavy metal, but it's also kind of proggy, but it's also a bit brawl. I mean, it's very odd mixture, but it really works. And the first time I heard it, it was like, oh, it's not bad. But then it kept calling me back, and I kept playing it more and more and more and more, and I liked it more and more, and then I kept wanting to play it more and more. And I've actually really, really played this one a lot over the last few months. It's only been out for like 2 or 3 months, so yeah, this is fairly new in the collection and one that I played quite a bit. It's interesting because it is an independent release, but I bought it directly from the band, so you can see I got a little note from the band in here, and the lyrics came in this little black and white booklet that they obviously handmade and hand created, which was kind of cool. I like the DIY attitude, and I love the album cover. But yeah, I've described the band to some people as, imagine like No Exit Area Fate's Warning meets Venom. That's kind of where I see this as. You got that kind of raw, gravelly vocal style, but the music's very proggy, and but still, you know, galloping Iron Maiden style heavy metal mixed in there. It's really unique. Great band. Check out Ravage, Age of Steel. And at number 9, number 8. Gosh, this one could have been anywhere in the top 10 because this thing. I love this band, and I know a lot of people do. This made a lot of people's lists. So this is Judas Priest, and this is Invincible Shield. These guys were supposed to retire like 2 albums ago, and then got reinvigorated by their new guitar player. And then, of course, you know, this band's gone through the trials in the last few years, but in the meantime, they put out one great heavy metal album. I don't know that I liked it as much as the last one. Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's just such a good album, and Priest is, you know, hasn't really put out a bad album in a long time, in my opinion. So this is exactly what we want to hear from Priest. You know, blazing guitar solos, dual solos, and, you know, Halford's unique signature voice. So, I mean, it's just a good album, and I don't have to go into much detail about it. Everybody knows who Priest is. This one here was one of the comeback albums of the year, in my opinion. Not since Perfect Strangers has there been a Deep Purple album that I felt was this solid. And I buy every Deep Purple album as a new release because I love Deep Purple. Always have. I think Ian Gillan's always been one of my favorite singers. And these guys are just fantastic. Obviously, it's got very minimalistic artwork. It's almost, you know, like the Beatles' White Album. The album is called Equals One. It does have the band name and Equals One on here. Very small and black, and it's also embossed, debossed, whatever it is. And it's got really nice artwork on the inside. So the artwork is not the point. The point is the music is fantastic. I need to open this up because the new guitar player's name is just escaping me. I think this new guitar player, not that there was anything wrong with past guitar players. Obviously, you know, their past guitar players have all been fantastic. But let's see if I can find his name in here somewhere. I know it's in here somewhere. And there's someone else on the other, someone's screaming over there who it is, and I just can't remember his name for the life of me. Something Bride. I just think he really helped reinvigorate this band. Here's the sleeve with his name on it. But since I have it open, you might as well see the artwork on the inside too, because the inside artwork is pretty cool. It almost looks like something Voivod would do. But yeah, great album from Deep Purple. Like I said, it's a fantastic comeback album for these guys. Just great old school hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. I really think that Ian Gillan, despite his age, knows how to use his voice and knows how to write music around his voice. And it's just a great album from them. I'd recommend this to any Deep Purple fan. If you like, Mach 2, Mach 3 era Deep Purple, this album is definitely worth checking out. All right, running out of space over here. All right, where are we? We're at number 6, so we're almost to the top 5. All right, and I need to hurry because we're lagging behind a little bit. This is Atropy, Asylum. This was the third album from Atropy. Of course, Atropy were a late 80s band, put out 2 albums back then, and then reformed to put out this album just this year, which is what, 20, 30 years away. So you might think, well, did they change styles? Nope. This really could have been the third follow-up album. This is just great. Old school, heavy metal, thrash metal, and, there is a lot of speed for speed's sake, which is definitely part of thrash metal. But the songwriting is there, the variety is there, the tempos aren't all exactly the same. There's, like I said, there's a lot of fast songs, but it's not all fast all the time. So it's a very memorable album. It definitely deserves to be in my top 10. Absolutely loved it. It's been played so many times that I'm probably wearing the record out already. So yeah, it's just great. Old school thrash metal, Atropy. Old school band showing the new school how to do it right. All right, that was number 6. So now we're in our top 5. I only got this album 2 weeks ago. If you've watched the Metal Roundtable, you know that Carcass John has been promoting this album all year as one of the best albums of the year, and I kind of lagged on it. And then Steve, Harmless Rebel, who's also on the Metal Roundtable, he put it in his top list of the year when we did it on the Metal Roundtable, and I was like, all right, I need to break down and go get that album. I honestly hate these kind of logos because you can't read it. It's a pile of Styx logos that all these black metal bands use. But this is Blood Incantation, Absolute Elsewhere. So despite the crappy logo, this has got some fantastic artwork and fantastic music. This is death metal, sort of. This is prog metal with a death metal leaning or death metal bend. There are death metal vocals in here. It's more used for effect than anything else. This is just great prog rock, prog metal, whatever you want to call it. And the thing is, it captured me like immediately. Sometimes, especially prog, it takes a few listens to really get into it. But man, I played this thing once on one day, and the next day it was the first thing I pulled out and play again because I just enjoyed it that much. And within 2 or 3 weeks I've had this thing, I probably already played this thing 8 or 9 times. I've seen it make a ton of people's lists. A lot of people have put it at number 1 for the year, and maybe if I had it longer, it might have been up there higher for me as well. But coming at number 5 for an album that I've only had for a few weeks is pretty surprising, especially for a band whose logo blows. But their music and their sound is fantastic. I believe this band's from Colorado. Blood Incantation, Absolute Elsewhere. Highly recommended if you're a fan of prog metal, death metal. Check it out. All right, I really toiled with these last 4, honestly. Any of these could have been number 1. They really could have been. They've all been played to death in my house and in my car. When I really, really like an album, I tend to buy it on both vinyl and CD because I like to play CDs in my car. And sure enough, man, all these I have the vinyl and the CD on. And the first one up, I'm still second guessing myself. This could have been up at number 2, 3, 1. So, but number 4, this is Flotsam and Jetsam, and this is I Am the Weapon. I love this album. The last 4, honestly 5 Flotsam and Jetsam albums, including Ugly Noise, I just think are fantastic. Now the last 4 have been thrash metal, but they've also got the hooks. They've got the basically the shout along or sing along choruses. It's just, if you like the first 2, 3 Flotsam albums, you didn't like kind of the mid-era stuff, this is a return to form, as was the last 3 albums. Just great thrash metal, straddling over to power metal at times, which is fine with me because that's kind of the sound that Flots has always had. But just a huge fan of this band, and I love this album. Got to see him. Actually, I'm wearing a tour shirt. That's not on purpose, just the shirt I happen to be wearing today. I think this was a 21 tour shirt. But in any case, great album from them. Highly recommended. Every song on here is great. I think the strangest one is Primal, only because the vocal style that Eric AK uses especially on the chorus, Primal, is just a little bit odd for him. But I think it worked great. So not a bad thing at all. And the guitar playing, I mean, it's just top notch. Oh, and so the drumming. Ken Mary's the drummer on this one, and dude's a beast. All right, this is a band I've only discovered a couple years ago, but I've been pushing and pumping for them a lot because I really, really like this band. This is Patriarch and Black. This is their 2024 full-length album. I also got their 2024 EP, which only came out on CD. The EP is fantastic. This thing has been played a bazillion times myself. It's on Brutal Planet Records. It has 6 songs, 5 cover songs, including Kiss Destroyer, Peter Gabriel, Games Without for Tears, and I mean that's a poppy song, and they just take it and they make it into this doom metal masterpiece. Kiss. Oh, I'm sorry, Destroyer wasn't Kiss. Destroyer was Twisted's sister. Kiss is Rock Bottom. The Chase is Better Than the Cat's Motorhead, and then Led Zeppelin Friends, and then finally the song My Veneration, an original track. So that's fantastic. But this here is their full-length album. Again, I have it on CD and vinyl. I just played it. As a matter of fact, I just played the CD again in my car the other day. There's a CD. Yeah, so coming in at number 3, Patriarchs in Black, Visioning, the 3rd full-length album, as well as Covered in Black, their first EP, and they've already working on recording their new album for 2025, and hopefully in 2025 we'll also see or maybe even the early 2026 we'll see the full-length covers album, because I know they're working on more covers as well. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this is I think there's a picture in here. Let me show the picture real quick. This is there's no picture of the band in here. Anyhow, this is Dan Lorenzo from Hades, and Johnny Kelly from I know he played in Quiet Riot, but what's the other band he played in? It's driving me up a wall that I can't remember at the top of my head right now. Ridiculous. It'll come to me when I turn the camera off, right? And everybody over there, you guys watching are probably screaming at me who the band he played in before was. But gosh, it's just my brain's not registering, and I can't remember the name of the band he was in. All right, where are we? We're at number 2. Oddly enough, both come from the same label, and oddly enough, these 2, I mean, just dominated my turntable and CD player this year. Both of them, I just think this is one of the best thrash albums of the year. This is Motivic and Renouncement. This is I don't know what else to say about it other than this is a fantastic thrash metal album. It's modern thrash. This is a newer band. This is only their 2nd full-length album. And it's definitely got modern production, but man, they take the old school and they blend it with some new, and they just create something that's really fresh and unique, yet still with both feet firmly planted in the thrash metal category. So it's not like they're like playing, metalcore or punk or anything like that, but they just take these different influences and kind of meld them together. There's some great guests on here as well, and the actual name of the album is called Renouncement, which is actually a cover song of the band Betrayal from the early 90s, and the vocalist Chris Ackerman actually does some guest vocals on that track with the band, and this is just great. I honestly, it could have been number 1, really could have been. Then again, so could the other 2 that I just showed. So Motivic, Renouncement, and then number 1, this had to be number 1 for me. I literally just love this album. This is the 3rd album from this Swedish band. I've had other albums from them. They've never registered to me like this one before, where it just captured my attention, pulled me in, and I mean, I was a fan, but now I'm a fan. These guys are fantastic. But this is All for the King. This is Darkest Before Dawn, the new album from Swedish melodic heavy metal band All for the King, produced by Eric Tyling. This is just heavy metal. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. I usually tell people, imagine like Black Sabbath. Gosh, I don't even know what album to put it to. Cross Purposes, and that era of Black Sabbath, mixed with a vocalist who kind of reminds me at times of David Coverdale, but at other times it reminds me of Glenn Hughes. So kind of a mixture of the two, But yeah, Tony Martin era Black Sabbath mixed with a vocalist who is I don't know, he hits the highs, and when he hits those highs sometimes it reminds me of Glenn Hughes, but other times when he's got that more straightforward melodic singing voice, he reminds me of David Coverdale. Now, I'm not saying he's a clone of either, it just kind of gives me that vibe, but musically this thing is freaking heavy, but it's not down-tuned metalcore heavy, it's Black Sabbath kind of heavy, and not a bad song on here. The whole thing is just brilliant. Check it out. You can check it out on YouTube. This is on Rox Records, and like I said, everything about this one just spoke to me. The music, the lyrics, it just had the melodies. It's got everything I wanted in a record, and I played this thing more times this year than I could possibly tell you. So, All for the King, Darkest Before Dawn, coming at #1 on No Life Till Metal Top 30 for 2024. So I almost did it in half an hour. So I tried to get 30 albums in with in 30 minutes, and almost got there. Anyhow, I appreciate you all watching. Have a happy 2025. I appreciate everybody who's been watching over the last decade I've been doing this, and continue to watch, continue to comment. I always love talking to you guys. Try to get back to everybody. Sometimes I get right away. Sometimes it takes me a week or two to get back to people, but I always try to respond to everybody. So leave a message below and let me know what you think. Please share this video and help me get more subscribers. And that's it. God bless. Stay strong. What is up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters, and welcome to No Life Till Metal. It's time for my top 30 of 2024. That's right, time for the top 20 of 3034? All right, let's try that again.